Adrian Hale wasn't a man easily shaken, but tonight something in him rattled with a violent unease he couldn't explain. His black SUV crawled slowly behind the bus that carried his employee. Lena Carter, quiet, punctual, hard-working, painfully polite Lena, who had begun acting strangely over the past month. She no longer laughed lightly at office jokes, no longer stayed late unless forced, no longer met his eyes for more than a second. And every day she seemed to shrink more, like someone compressing herself into invisibility. Adrian noticed every shift, every hesitation, every forced smile. He shouldn't have. She was just an assistant, but somehow she wasn't just anything anymore. Tonight he followed her, not because he was suspicious of theft or betrayal or misconduct, but because he felt something was wrong, terribly wrong, and the possibility twisted like a knife in his ribs. He didn't dare ask her directly. She had mastered the art of deflecting, concern with a smile that screamed pain to anyone who bothered to look closely. And Adrian had looked too closely, far too closely for a man trying to convince himself he didn't care. The bus rattled toward a part of the city he had never seen Lena go near. Graffiti-stained walls, broken streetlights, cracked sidewalks. The kind of neighborhood where desperation clung to the air. His jaw tightened. She shouldn't be here. This wasn't her world. She boarded the bus looking exhausted, but she stepped off looking terrified. She wrapped her coat tighter and hurried, head bowed, clutching her bag as if defending something precious inside. "Slow down," Adrian murmured to his driver. Lena darted into a decaying apartment building. Paint peeled from the walls. A flickering blue light haunted the stairwell, and a door slammed on a higher floor. She seemed to know exactly which turns to take, which corners to avoid, which stairs creaked. She'd been here a long time. Too long. Adrian stepped out of the SUV. His driver hissed, "Sir, this isn't safe." "I don't care," Adrian muttered. Already striding toward the door Lena had disappeared through. The building smelled of mold and resignation. Water dripped somewhere above. A dog barked behind a thin wall. He climbed the stairs silently, tracking the sound of Lena's soft footsteps. "Fourth floor?" She stopped at a door. He stayed back in the shadows, hidden. Her key slipped. Her hand shook. The lock clicked. What he heard next shattered him. A child's gasp, a small strained whimper. "Mama, it hurts." Adrian froze. She had a child? "Mama's here," Lena whispered, voice breaking. "Honey, breathe." "Please just breathe." Another cough, violent, ragged, terrifying. A wet rattle. Adrian's stomach dropped. Then her sob, barely audible. The kind someone makes when they've cried themselves dry too many times. He pressed a hand to the wall to steady himself. Lena was a mother. She had a sick child, and she was hiding it. He backed away slowly, unable to breathe. He didn't leave until he heard her soft voice, again singing something, shaky and broken to soothe the child. The melody stabbed straight into him. He walked back to the car like a man who had seen the ghost of a truth he wasn't meant to know. When he got home, he couldn't sleep. Her voice replayed in his mind. The child's cough echoed in the silence. By morning, he felt like he'd been hollowed out. And Lena Carter walked into the office like nothing had happened. She smiled at him, thin, exhausted, her eyes red around the edges. "Good morning, Mr. Hale." His chest clenched painfully. "Lena," he said, "in my office, now." She stiffened, fear flashing through her eyes. She followed him in and closed the door gently, twisting her hands behind her back. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked softly. "You tell me," Adrian said, voice low, controlled. Trembling with something he hoped wasn't visible, she stared at him, confused. "You've been hiding something," he said. "Something huge. Something that's destroying you." Her breath caught. I'm not." "Don't lie to me." She took a step back, gripping her wrist like she was holding herself together. "I don't know what you think I followed you," he said, the words falling out before he could stop them. She froze. All color drained from her face. "You what?" "I followed you home," he repeated. "I heard your son. I heard you begging him to breathe. I heard everything." She stumbled back as if slapped. "You had no right," she whispered, voice shaking violently. "I know," he said. "But I couldn't ignore what I saw. You're suffering. He's suffering. And you've been doing it alone." "I didn't want anyone to know," she cried. "I can't lose this job. I can't lose the insurance. I can't risk looking weak or irresponsible or..." You're a mother, he snapped. You're not weak. You're not irresponsible. You're drowning. Tears spilled from her eyes, but she wiped them away furiously. He's sick, she said, finally breaking. Really sick. He needs surgery. Expensive surgery. I've been saving, but it's not enough. I've been working 2 jobs. I barely sleep. And he keeps getting worse. Adrian felt something in him fracture. She'd been alone through all of this. Alone in the dark. Alone with a dying child. Lena, he whispered, you should have asked me. I didn't want charity, she choked. I didn't want you to think less of me. He stepped closer. I could never think less of you. Silence thickened between them. Then he said quietly, we're going to the hospital today. She shook her head wildly. No, Mr. Hale, I can't. Adrian. She blinked. Call me Adrian, he said. And you're not stopping me. Let me help. Her voice cracked. Why? He didn't answer. Because the real reason was something he wasn't ready to say. Something sharp and dangerous. Something that made his hand shake. And his heart pound every time she walked into the room. He only said, please come with me. Her shoulders collapsed as if she'd been carrying mountains. She nodded slowly, tears trailing silently down her cheeks. Okay, she whispered, I can't do this alone anymore. You won't, he said softly. Not again. Noah was barely conscious when they arrived at the hospital. His tiny body lay limp on the bed, his skin pale, his breathing shallow. Lena knelt beside him, brushing his hair back, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Mama's here, she murmured. You're okay. You're safe. Adrian stood behind her, his hands clenched, his chest burning. He had seen children sick before, in charity hospitals, in medical centers he funded, but this felt different. This felt like being punched repeatedly in the same place, because this child mattered to her, and she mattered to him in ways he wasn't supposed to feel. Doctors swarmed in, taking vitals, ordering tests, murmuring about oxygen levels, infection markers, surgical urgency.
Adrian paid every fee instantly.
Nurses spoke to Lena gently, asking questions she struggled to answer through tears. At one point, Noah opened his eyes. Mama, it hurts. I know, baby. I'm right here. His eyes moved to Adrian. Who's he? Lena wiped her tears. He's my boss. Is he nice? Adrian's throat tightened. Sometimes. Noah reached weakly for his hand. Adrian froze, then slowly took the child's tiny fingers. You look like Batman, Noah whispered faintly. Lena groaned softly. Oh God, not this again. Adrian forced a smile. Batman, huh? You wear all black, Noah mumbled. And you look scary but nice. Lena covered her face with her hands. Adrian whispered back, voice raw. Well, heroes don't give up. And neither will you. Noah's eyelids fluttered. He smiled weakly before drifting asleep. Lena broke silently. Adrian gently helped her stand. Let me handle everything. Just stay with him. As she nodded, trembling, he stepped into the hallway, and the doctor approached him privately. The report was devastating. Severe pneumonia, heart strain, possible complications, urgent need for surgery. The boy's small body was exhausted from fighting alone too long. Adrian's hands shook as he signed the consent forms. He couldn't breathe through the guilt. If he had known sooner, if she had trusted him sooner, if he had confronted her sooner, maybe the boy wouldn't be this close to dying. He returned to the room and sat beside Lena, who had fallen asleep holding Noah's hand. Adrian watched the two of them, the small, fragile family she'd built out of sheer willpower, and something inside him tore open. He hadn't understood the emptiness in his own life until this moment. He never wanted to leave them. Not now. Not ever. Hours later, when Noah was taken for surgery, Lena broke completely. She cried into Adrian's chest, shaking, whispering prayers and apologies and fears she had carried alone for years. It's my fault, she sobbed. I should have brought him sooner. I was scared. I didn't want the bills. I didn't want to owe anyone. I didn't want to look weak. You were protecting him, Adrian whispered, holding her tightly. You were doing everything alone. That isn't weakness. It's strength. Too much strength. The surgery lasted 3 agonizing hours. Every minute stretched into a lifetime. And when the surgeon finally emerged, his expression unreadable, Lena collapsed into Adrian's arms. Is he alive? She whispered. The surgeon inhaled deeply. We did everything we could. Lena stopped breathing. He made it. Your son is stable. Her cry was so raw, so fragile, so full of relief that Adrian nearly broke with her. She slid to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Adrian knelt beside her, gathering her gently in his arms. He's okay, he whispered. He's okay. When they entered Noah's room, the boy was pale, bandaged, weak, but alive. His small chest rose and fell with gentle breaths. Lena kissed his forehead, tears falling onto his pillow.
Adrian stood behind her, feeling something he'd never felt before.
He belonged there, with them. Lena turned to him slowly, her eyes swollen from crying. You saved my son, she whispered. No, Adrian said softly. You did. You fought for him every day. I just helped you fight. Her lips trembled. Why? He stepped closer. Because I care, he said simply. Silence. Then she whispered, I'm scared. So am I, he admitted. She blinked, startled. You? You're never scared. I am when it comes to you. Her breath hitched. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You don't have to decide anything today, he murmured. Just know that I'm here for you, for Noah, for whatever comes next. Lena closed her eyes, pressing her forehead lightly against his chest. And he held her like she was something precious, held her like he had been waiting to protect her for a lifetime. He didn't know what the future held. But he knew one thing with piercing clarity. He wasn't going to lose them. Not now, not ever. His breath hitched when he heard her footsteps behind him, soft, hesitant, almost frightened. Sir, you shouldn't have seen that, she whispered. He turned slowly, the night wind blowing strands of hair across her face. Tears glimmered in her eyes, but she still tried to stand tall, as if her world wasn't collapsing. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, voice breaking. She hugged herself, shaking. Because people like you don't help people like me. They hurt them. His chest tightened painfully. He stepped closer, carefully, as if she were glass. Is that what you truly believe? She flinched but didn't run. Everyone who ever had power in my life used it to destroy something I loved. She looked him straight in the eyes, and he felt the truth hit him harder than any blow. I thought if you knew what I was hiding, you'd fire me. Or worse. He